Easy today because I was sick like a dog. I couldn't move the whole day, didn't go to school, I did nothing. And then I started talking to myself and saying, stop being a phony. I kept saying it. You're fine. Stop it. You want to be sick? Be sick. You know, everybody got to get sick once in a while. Why? It's good. You know, get a little attention, you know, a little break from the normal schedule, get sick a little, so it fits in with everything. You're supposed to get sick, have what to talk about all day. I don't like to talk a word. I don't think my wife knows anything what's going on. Nothing. What exactly is happening? I don't have time for that. Let's move on. You move on, you're in a different world. And the Eibishter Hashem Tzilcha. You're in a world of pain, and all you talk about is pain and incapacity and dysfunctional. That's all you talk about, think about. That's what happens. Now, when my nose is bleeding, this is unbelievable. Just happened today. Suddenly, your nose is bleeding. You know what I do? It's not bleeding. Stop it. And you can't stop when it goes, it goes. As soon as I say that, it stops. I say, there's nothing there. Nothing there. It listens to me. You hear this? Think it's a joke? He says this to Altov and Novandik. I think that the whole world is our avodim. To a person is the melech on the bria. You got some melech on everything going on in your life. You decide if you're sick or not. You decide. The more you decide you're sick, as soon as you get sick, see that pain that wasn't there before, that's another proof that I'm sick. Now, that's more. Now okay, it's time to go to the hospital. It's time to, I almost gave in. Wife was asking me, why did you, Anyway, I'm fine. I just got up to go to a vart, and I was dancing in the middle, making myself good with sugar. That's it. I remember once years ago in Bnei Brak, I was sick with high fever for a week. I couldn't move until it was Beis Sheva and Slobodka. So I had enough of this bed. And in my burning fever, I got up and I joined the Rikida. It was a packed house over there. Slobodka Yeshiva. Rav Shulman, I remember, was dancing in the middle. I got up and I went around 2-3 hakafas and I was cured. It disappeared. For a week, I was in bed. As soon as I went around a few times, I'm in a different world. My brain is not into being sick. I'm in a different sugya now. Once you get into another sugya, it's unbelievable. People don't chap how powerful their mind is in everything they do. Alton Cup, Reb Geshem was very big into this. You're asking the doctor how you're feeling? A doctor asks you. He told me this. The doctor asked me, what do you say? What do I say? I think I'm fine. As soon as you say that, watch what happens. It's not in the race. People, how much the mind has a kayach. Now, I saw something recently. The Brisker Rav, Hatzal, he had a lot of fights with Askola. Ashrei Cholkai. Anybody who fought them is sitting in Gan Eden big time. Pinchas and his friends. Ooh, are they big. They're the biggest. They fought Askola. Askola had their sneaky ways of getting in to... Now, I'm going to say a horror that I think has a lot of truth to it. Where does it come from? These Askola, they were rotten. It was terrible how they fell. With the things they did, they said. I find that has a lot to do with Kedusha. They want to have a good life. That's what I think. I'm chesed that. That's behind everything. The wives running the show, telling them, this is too much for me. We got to be more relaxed. That's why the That's why Zman Chayru Seinu is so important. We got out of the Mem Tev Sharitum. You want to be free? Run away from all these wicked things and you'll be happy. Doesn't work, that stuff. Doesn't work. It's dead end. The whole... Anyway, but here's a story with the Briskerov. The Briskerov was... there was a giant shul in Brisk. And they decided, the Haskalah there, they wanted to get some. The guy was singing the Chazan, so they would get some people to sing along with, make it more geschmack. So, there was nothing wrong with it. But the Briskerov said, they're behind it, I'm going to fight it tooth and nail. If they're behind the whole thing, I'll kill them. No Rachmanis. As soon as the people, he told those people, don't go up. How to get up on the stairs. There was a lot of stairs over there. And there was going to be a whole choir, don't go up. A few minutes later, the Maskilim got a hold of those people and said, do go up. They went up. The Briskerov himself went up and he said, let's go, down. And this went back and forth, and they said, no, up, no, down. Now, he did this 4 or 5 times, and he said like this, I have to do what I can do. Ad mokim shir de magas. He held, this is going to be, it sounds like he couldn't go up anymore. It was going to be, he says, I'm still going to try my last. And he went up again. But that last time he went up, because those guys were stronger, they were going to, just as he said, it's my last time, suddenly, and these guys started going against him, the Ezras Noshim suddenly got involved. The ladies, they don't start up with ladies. And the ladies went wild. How do you do this to the Rav? You tell the Rav what to do. They went wild. And that was the end of the story that everybody, have to listen to the ladies. If the ladies say, now, you really have to listen. It's so interesting. I'm Choshed, that was the whole tzara of the Haskalah. That there's something was wrong over there. Who's boss? Who's this? Sometimes it's good if she's boss. Nowadays, I don't know if it's Kedai, they say the best marriages are the German ones. Why? Because there, it's like a tchila. She is the boss, and he knows it, and that's the matzah. He doesn't even get involved in trying to fight around. There's no struggle. She's the boss. So they say those are the best marriages, because it's clear. That's the matzah. She's in charge. Chazal say, Kol Shemei Atzas Ishta Yneifel B'Gehenim. So, okay, you have to know. Reb Nosson used to tell us, when your wife wants something different than you, take a look. Who is talking? Who is talking? Is Har Yetzirah talking? Or Har Yetzirah talking? And act accordingly. Now, Reb Nosson, I heard the same thing from Meir Chodesh. It didn't look like he was in charge. He was mush. I saw this myself. And once he used to live in Williamsburg. And he wanted to go to his Sheva Brachas. And his wife let him have it. You're not going, And he stood there looking at me, like with a helpless look on his face. And he says, "The vibe's up. Darf man folgen." He was giving me a chinuch. Your wife says, you got to listen. It's a good point. Normally, what are you fighting? She doesn't want you to go. Don't go. You're going to fight. No. Anyway, that's what he told me that time. But he once said, when he wants something, there's no lady in his life. He used to hop on the plane to go to Eretz Yisrael very suddenly from nowhere. And he barely told her, that's the matzah. I'm going. He was very into going to Yerushalayim for trips. He used to go there. And he didn't they said, in Novandig they said, when your wife, you have to give everything for your wife. But if it's going against the truth, let her fill the house with tears. No, sir, lady. Smart people run the show without fighting. Like Rav Nosson and like Rav Meir Chadash. Meir Chadash's kids testified that his wife was by far in charge. She talked. She was a personality. And he was the quietest person in the world. He was very quiet. And they said they observed the parents. And he let her do all the talking, and she was always deciding and doing, and, she was the one. And the kids remarked, but they said, but Tati knows what he's doing. She don't push him around. He just doesn't make a frontal assault out of everything. He has ways of getting around what he wants to do, and he gets it anyway without official. If you're smart, people who are smart, they do these things. So interesting. I remember Reb Gershon, Novandig held a lot from this. Somebody came screaming at him, a young, a guy old enough to be his great-grandson. One of these nobodies. He's screaming. There was a shiloh going to Paris. The Bachram going, we're not going. So and this Bacha was a stoltz boy. He wasn't a sweet guy. I knew him. And he had his opinion. And he was telling Reb Gershon, you're sure? Reb Gershon was Reb Gershon, but he was gung-ho. And I saw the way Reb Gershon dealt with it. He bent right away. Oh, Avada, yeah. Avada, I have to listen to you. Somehow, in the end, they didn't go. Somehow didn't, you're right. Yes, we're going like you. But in the final analysis, I do what I want. That you got to be smart. And I saw this myself. It was great. Rav Wankrins told me this. Always give in, and then make that U-turn, and you'll do whatever you want. But first give in. Always give in. Never fight. No fighting. We don't fight. Give in, especially our Pesach. Now, I spoke to somebody recently about Anova. You have to have Anova. What? Mandel? You're always talking about the other way. Now, Pesach is a big inyan. Turn yourself into a matzah. And the Vardik, the minig was to become a real live matzah. A matzah is anova. Chametz is, chametz? A matzah is flat. You know the carbon Pesach? You ever see a mushy, I have pictures, a mushy creature. A baby sheep is the most, I once saw one right here in Lakewood. It ran away from, whatever it was. There was a sheep. And I saw this. I said, wow. It is such, it don't resist. It was running in the street. They just picked it up. No, blah, blah, blah. Oh, yes, okay, whatever you want. A sheep is a sheep. A sheep has no zich. A sheep is mush. Whatever you want, I do. And they're warm, They're warm. Being warm in a Vadig was a big thing. They worked on it. They held coldness is, I don't want to say, it's not for us to hear the criticism they had on. It's good. You're allowed to be cold. I'm not going to tell people that something's bad. It's not for us. But being warm is another. They worked on it. What? How do you get what you want in the end? I'm not so sure. I just know it works. I mean, I know there's people, they let her scream. I heard from other Chashavayim. She's the big talker, and he does what he wants. Yes, you're right. He makes her feel good, and then when it comes to Maisa, because she doesn't really care between you and me. The person who, the Welt says, a person convinced against his will is of his opinion still. Right? The best way to win an argument is to avoid it. This stuff, it's a waste of time and energy. All fighting is the way. You're right. You're right. But when I say I do it always with a stolz. I don't just say you're right. You're right. I agree. Yes, you are right. That's the way I do things. I do it so I come out ahead. It was my decision that you object. Anyway, so take a look at the mushy sheep. Why do we have to take a sheep for a Korban Pesach? And the matzah is flat. It's anova. It's Yedua. It's anova. No? So anova is avodas hazman. Stop screaming at your husband. I mean, at your wife. Stop. Now look, no matter what I'm going to say, don't scream at yourself. That's what I say. Don't. If you screamed a little bit, you're not up to it. You know how many people call me up with guilt? How dare I do such a thing? They're full of guilt. Accept yourself. You're on the road to being an anav. You want to be an anav. That's enough. Let me up. Maybe someday we'll get there. We'll work on it more. But they say in Rabbi, when he was younger, the Rebbitzin said that he wasn't the way he was when he was older. Now, whatever that means, the family isn't so good on what do you mean he was young. He was a malach from day one. That's what they say. So I don't know what it means exactly. But the way the story goes, that he worked himself so much different that he was once on the telephone speaking to some meshuggah who was making him a sugar for an hour, and Reb Aaron was mush. And he let him yell at him, keep yelling, more goods, more, but he didn't care. He loved them. Reb Aaron Kafla, Edelkeit, the Edelkeit that he had. That's, for covered Pesach, try to have at least one situation where someone yelled at you and you kept quiet. That's Apikaim present. That's what I hold. That's a kosher Feilach Hayom. Someone yells at you, or learn Musar on Anova and be over in everything you just learned about, but you're just fine because you learned Musar. That's enough. It's enough. And nowadays you get among people, they have to succeed also. Leave them alone. You learned Musar. That's plenty good. You know what Reb Nelson says? If somebody is aiming in a certain direction, he's going nowhere. But he's aiming there in the Yenavelt, he's getting it. He's getting the whole thing. You are learning Musar on Anova. Here you are worse than ever. The Yenavelt, you're going to have that whole Midah of Anova. A little, not too much. I recommend a little bit. Take it easy. Don't, Anova, you got to watch out. You get depressed sometimes. Anyway, you know, when I came to Reb Gershon carried himself like a soldier. He had a straight back. He was a born general. The Olam says it came through Musa. I don't know. But when he was in his wheelchair, he sat in his wheelchair like a general. I remember the way he used to, when he wanted something, his mannerisms, he was malchus, and the same person was mush. That's something. I just told this to somebody. People have trouble with tolerating other people who are not on their level. So I don't blame them. I have these type of things where I can't be civil, can't. And so what do? I'm talking about Yiddishkeit. Where people are not quite, they're doing, it's not Toradic, it's not, whatever it is. Is it fancy stuff, or is it stuff a little too this, too that, it's too, or the music, or whatever it is stuff that gets on your nerves. If you have a little Edelkeit, you have a little Shemaim, or from the old Chevra, it's hard to tolerate a lot of things going on. What are you supposed to do? I asked Reb Gershon about this. You know what he told me? He was a kanoi. He held his girls had dresses 2 inches lower than any normal Beis Yaakov girl, and he encouraged no sheitlach, a litvak, How can you get away with that? No, tichel. And what else? The payas, the boys, like Satmas. He was extreme. He was an Utarikatanik. He was everything. He once said, there's nobody ever in Ruchnius. Ruchnius, he was very extreme. And he once brought a big kanoi, a very controversial kanoi, he brought to France. Oh boy, it was fireworks. A known controversial person who's even among the Turkata Ulam, he was from wasn't so pushy with him. He brought him over for Shabbos, come spend the Shabbos with us. And boy, was there fireworks, because his boys, even though they were trained to be a little bit leaning with kanoyis, but the way this fellow sounded, I don't want to say, was way too much for their mentality. They couldn't handle it. And Atake wasn't. And they were debating throughout Shabbos. He spoke a lot, and when they debated, the guy started fighting cats and dogs together. Reb Gershon liked it. I had the impression he was smiling away. He liked it. Why? It's good when people bring out the kaiches. You don't sit and learning. Ideally, you got to fight and learning. That's the way to. People have a thrill in wars. Notice war. World War II. Oh, there's an article. World War II. Everybody opens it up. War people with guns. Everyone's running it. Wars. Everyone runs after that stuff because human nature likes action. I asked the kids in my class, what would you rather have? Go outside and sit peacefully, have a good time for recess, or get into a game. But you may be losing. I don't care. Game. Fighting back and forth. Human being likes that. It's supposed to be in learning. Ideally, I would very recommend. I once read a chavrusa tumul. I was once reading a chavrusa to somebody. He didn't want the other guy. He said, why? He says, he's the kind of guy that if I threw a towel at him, he wouldn't throw it back. I don't want a guy that won't throw it back. He's having fun with you. Action, right? So Reb Gershon seemed to like when they were fighting around. Fight around. That's the way it's Dr. Shaltaira. That's the way it works. Anyway. So there's a lachreit, it's Gavaldik. Anyway, the Rabbi Varshapchik is one of our illustrious leaders who puts this out. It's Murdik. Anyway, so what was I saying? Who? Yeah, listen to this. I asked him, what do you do? I asked him, this guy's terrible, he's this. You know what he told me? And he hated the world. Ilomius! And when they had to move into normal beds, they went Meshuggah, the Novandigas. When they got rich, it was a big, it wasn't so puzzle when they got rich. They weren't the same. They used to sleep in these cots, and they slept like, they lived, Rodnammer told me, he had 10 kids. The same room was used for sleeping, for eating. Every morning, everybody put together the beds. They live in Anias, they couldn't care less. They liked that, like a tchila. So now suddenly they had to change and sleep in normal beds. It was they were against Ilomius, they didn't like it. Novandik is very against the Welt, the gas. The fancy stuff, forget it. They say the first few months that Reb Gershon became a millionaire, he didn't sleep in a normal, he went into the forest to sleep in a Beis Habdidus every night, freezing, So I don't want to get used to this stuff. They don't like it, They don't like there's a famous story. When you put on a new suit, you're in trouble. You were a calm guy until you bought that new suit. You want me to show it to you? I'll show it to you. As soon as you buy that new suit, you're dead. Because the training, oh no, what am I going to do? You go Meshuggah. There's a Maisa. People who have things, I know there's a certain Chasidus, I don't want to say who, but I like them very, in this Miuchad I like them. They put on a hat, and that hat is there, l'deiris. They don't care. Who says you have to, also this, it's there l'netzach. This is my hat, they're the happiest. They do some other stuff that's a little bit, you know, and they're very happy. They're normal too. They're great. But that's part of the sheet. That's, who cares? You know, they say one of the Novandigas became a Knesset member. He went off to Derech. He became a Knesset member. And they say that the war messed him up, whatever. They say that he held on to these things. He never ate like the other Knesset members. Fancy foods, he wouldn't touch it. Fancy cars, and he hated all that stuff. The guy now get a limousine, you're ready, you know. No. I want a schleppel, I want to be a schlemazel. And he wasn't from anymore. But that Indian that they had in Novandik, he loved it because he knew I'm going to be a happy person. Once you get this, the house, my house. You know how many guests don't? Okay, look. What are you offering the people out there? Lachma anya? Come inside, everybody. For what? Lachma anya means my piece of garbage over here. That's what you want. That's when you're inviting them. What's the pshat? No, you hit a pshat. I have different pshatim. But the pshat is, Yechavetz Chaim Taina, that people don't do chesed in the Achnosis Archim, because they're too, well, my house isn't neat. I don't want them to see. And the cover drowns the chesed. There's no more chesed available. You saw orangutan, my house looks like this, and the neighbors are saying, now, if any woman is like this, there's nothing wrong. She's allowed to be like that. Motolach. But we want to aim for lechatchila. Lechatchila, somehow, lachsach up, so it doesn't look so great, especially Erev Pesach. Erev Pesach, I'm going to war against being Mesudadik. You know, I once heard a drasha from Triska, Tversky, one of these, he was a big darshan, he was a great speaker, he spoke in Far Rockaway. He spoke on Pesach, and he says, how come you say Manishtana only on Pesach, and you don't say it on Sukkot? Say Sukkot when a Yid's kicked out of his house and living in the woods. No problem. That's the way things are by us. But when he comes to a Seder and everything, now comes this, now comes that. He says, Manishtana. Well, there's something's funny over here. This isn't what, that's, and he says, I want to stick up now first. I advise, get done early. That's clear. But what if it's not happening? So, I'll tell you what to do. All those non-Masudadik. I can't forget the time somebody came to me in the middle of my Purim Suda telling me, thank you, Rabbi Mendel, because you spoke, you don't have to be Masudadik, you saved my life. These ladies go, Meshuggah, because the house, it's all covered, and I bless this mess. I'm very into that. By the way, I'll tell you something more. Now look, you're allowed to be Masudadik. In fact, Rabbi Leib Chasman they once asked him in Eitzan Avodas Hashem, he said, Seder. Seder's not a joke. In Kelm, Seder, Masudadik, you can tell the madrega of a guy how Masudadik he is. You know these stories of the Malimos. Okay. But you're not Masudadik. A friend of mine went to Reb Nosson. Can a guy stag if he's not Masudadik? He said 100%. Yeah, you can stag without being Masudadik. Don't worry about it. The Nazis were very Masudadik. The guy who is very not Masudadik, and he's jealous, so just remember, the Nazis were known for that. In Machshamam, they were Masudar. They were, there's a Tzad HaTov and Tzad HaRa, and every good thing, and every, in Kelm was Kodesh Kadashim. Masuda means Menucha, Masuda is very chashiv. You gotta go for it. But what if it's not happening? So, say, oh, the Germans. I'm not one of them. I'm a sloppy Joe. I'm not so. So it spilled on Zadie's kittel. If you're very Masuda, you can't handle it. If you're in a Vardiga, that's lachatchila. It spilled, by the Esregim. Some Sefer, he said it's a Hida mitzvah. When the Esreg, you used it a lot, and it's all messed up from the hands. He says that's a Hida mitzvah, because it was used, even though it doesn't look good, it doesn't look pretty anymore. The Esreg, the yellow lost its and it's all darkish because you used it a whole Yom Tiv. And he says that's called Hida mitzvah, because it was used. So I held my house as Hida, because that's the way my house is. It's very good. I like my house the way it is. Anyway, what are we up to about the guy? Now, here's a guy. Reb Gershom was talking about somebody who was not so, he was too, you know what he told me? The way he said it, he lowered his voice. He says, you have to understand, in this door, what do you want from the guy? Somebody was really, what do you want from him? But the way he said it, you got to hear it. With the warmth and the feeling, he lowered his voice. What do you want from the guy? Some people get nervous when other people are not as frum as they are, right? It kills them. A lot of problems with that area. Sometimes you should take a stand. It's not so push it, not taking a stand. Sometimes you have to. You can't always mutolach everything. Sometimes you have to. But the shell is how to make a stand. But sometimes you have to lower your voice like Reb Gershon and say, Nazador, what do you expect? And sometimes you got to say that to yourself. Nazador, so I am, so I'm not so. Nazador, what do you want from me? So I'm not so this, I'm not so that. Nazador, and that's something. Anyway. Okay, now. Somebody asked the letter how they can have menucha for Pesach. That's the burning issue. And I said, this is a very powerful mahalach. Stop. I was watching a squirrel. Squirrels, it's so beautiful, Hashem's delicious world. The squirrel takes a jump, stops. Another jump, stop. He's always halting. He gives a jump, stop, up. Then he takes another bite. A minute later, he's flying up the tree. Up, go. Up. So I don't know the pshat why squirrels do that, but they the Alton Kamal, he used to walk back and forth in his room, and it was a private place, no one's allowed. And they say he used to take a few steps and stop, another few steps and stop. Now look, if you stop in the middle of your job for 5 minutes on the clock and forget the whole business, it's going to give you so much energy. It's the best thing to do. Stop your work and take a deep breath and relax. If you're one of these stressed out people, I try hard to do these things. I'm usually on a high stress matzav. I have a lot of things to do, and then I conk out. It's over. I'm not getting involved. Nothing. I dafka chill out. I dafka, you can have some vodka. I'm doing nothing. I'm beshita. In Kelm, they say b'tula zu kiyuma. They used to sleep in the middle of the day, and that sleeping was Kodesh Kadoshim. How much more time do you want me to speak over here? 5? 7 minutes? Okay. Now, the days of Pesach are days. When you could be Zeicha now, it's up to you. Now look, I was sick today. Somebody called me up for a bracha. I gave him a bracha, and I said, this bracha is going to work. Now listen closely. It's going to work. And I didn't tell him why. Chazal say that the Shechina is on top of a chayla. You have to believe that. There's no chachmas. You have it. Yes, man. But you believe it, you don't. I believe it. The Shechina, now my brachas are going to work. I do this all the time. What's deep down is not negeya. It's a eish rotzen neira. Now is the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim. To me, the main Mitzrayim is Ruchnius. Took us out of Mem Tes Shari Tuma. You can pull out of anything now. Now, I would recommend talk about that as much as you can. When you learn the Haggadah, it's got to be real in your life. Make believe, all make believe. Now is the time. I saw this. Nelson was very into Emuna Pshuta. Now is the time that you can leave or you can get rid of all your problems. I do this all the times. Now is the time for Nisim. Keep saying it. What's going to hurt you? You know what you're getting out of it? I'll tell you what you're getting. You're getting a mitzvah of working on your midas. That's the ikka. Working on Amuna. Who cares what happens? And you keep doing it year after year. Hashem is going to reward you. Now, you keep doing talk all day. Pesach. This is going to be a Pesach. We're going to have Nisim. You mean it, you don't mean it. Don't complicate me. Keep talking. Now we're going to get out of the worst mess. The worst. Now, when I first got sick the other day, the last time I spoke on Thursday, it was mamish. Nobody. It was first of all, it was the best schmooze I ever had when I couldn't speak. You know that? I couldn't speak. They told me it was the best schmooze they ever heard this Thursday. I couldn't speak. Now it's gold compared to then. Now, first of all, when it first happened, I said, they asked me, oh, what's with your voice? Or this? I says, I don't have time to think of those silly things. As my voice, is my voice, not my voice, who cares? A very healthy way to go. Don't focus on your problem all day. Oh, I'm sick. Now we got to talk about that all day. And we got to decide. How do you feel here? I go, I'm not gyrus. What? Sick? What? Everything's fine. I keep moving. Kaloi hoya. And I never had, in my class, I did the entire Haggadah in one day. It was unbelievable. Without a voice. And last night, and the Vad, they told me was the best Vad they ever heard. My voice was b'chlal out of commission. I want to tell you something. A lot of people get b'tachon when they can't even work on b'tachon. They don't have the kaiches to work on it. I can't, Rabbi Mendel, I tried, I can't. I say like this. Now, there is a story of 4 kings. The 4 kings, David HaMelech went to war, and he won with b'tachon. Also, HaMelech went to war without fighting, and he won with b'tachon. Yeshavat HaMelech didn't go to war. He sang, and he won. And Chizkiah HaMelech, he was the youngest, he was the Enokel, he said, I don't have the kaiches to go to war, I don't have the kaiches to fight, I don't have the kaiches to sing. Eibishter, I'm laying on my bed, and you're going to do everything for me. Now listen to this. That night, a malach came down from Shemayim and wiped out. He was being surrounded by the Assyrian army. They were tough like crazy. There's pictures of them. Have these, whatever you call, reliefs out of stones. And they had beards, interesting, with long hair. They were crazy tough people. Sancheriv mixed up the whole world. He was the king of Ashur. And they were the number one, and they had 1 million soldiers right outside. And they're ready to attack him tomorrow. And he had already conquered every single city in Yehuda. He was the one that sent the 10 Shvatim away. Sancheriv was the one. Imagine. And now he was conquering Yehuda. And he had all the cities except for Yerushalayim. And there was Chizkiah. And Chizkiah's own people were lavdafka on his side. In fact, somebody sent an arrow to Sancheriv, says, I'm not Chizkiah's friend, I'm with you. The Chizkiah was in a pickle, and they all made fun of his b'tachon. And they said, he has b'tachon, he was known for b'tachon, he's open psukim. He was Beiteach by Hashem. But what kind of b'tachon did he have? Pesach night. He said, Eibishter, I don't have the koiches to go to war, to go with fighting, out fighting, no koiches to sing. I'm laying on my bed and you're going to do the whole thing. Now, if a person's ever in a matzav where he just can't, I can't even work on b'tachon, you will have more power than anything in the world. Look what happened. That night, a malach came down and decimated the entire Assyrian army forever. Nebuchadnezzar, Russia, witnessed this malach. He was an assistant to Sancheiriv, and when he saw it, that's why he survived. He never wanted to go to war against us, because he says, I'm not starting with these people. And what did it? A matzav of, I can't do anything. You have to do everything. If anybody gets on a matzav where you can't even work on b'tachon, you can't even open a sefer, just far and bring this down. Emuna brings this down. Won't do nothing. You'll get everything. Be Beiteach Hashem. You're taking over. That's the most powerful thing. The biggest kayach in the world is not having kayach. So Raya, my class, I never did so well when my voice wasn't working. Don't be in a spo when something's wrong. Don't be in a spo from anything. The number one, we're going? The number one thing is don't chop a spilus from anything. The number one yesod of a Baal B'tachon, the Yom Tov of Pesach is B'tachon. It's a time to learn Musa B'tachon, time to relax, have a great time. On Pesach, the main thing is Simcha. You know who says this? I forgot who says this. I think it's Sam Sofer. He says the biggest Simcha in the world is being zecher to the mitzvah of B'tachon. Be happy that you are Beiteach, that you're working on it. That's something. There's a time of Yom Tov B'tachon, you get everything you want. Keep talking like that. They're going to tell you, oh, but not. You do yours. They're seeds. Someday things will happen. You may not see anything. A whole Pesach, you're saying, oh, this Pesach, we're going to have all the yeshuas we want. Keep hocking in cup. You're going to get a mitzvah for every word, even if nothing's happening. Oh, you see, it doesn't work. Just keep doing it. They're seeds. Someday, you're going to wake up one day and wow. And you don't know how suddenly success is coming your way because you were in action. And you spent the whole Pesach busy with Emuna and B'tachon. Constantly, when you learn about the Mitzias Mitzrayim with a Simcha, look what happened. It's us. Imagine we're going all of our Mitzrayims. Well, Mitzrayim means anything that stresses you out. I have to do this all day because I'm very Mitzumtzum by nature. So all day, don't bother me. Meitzar means boxy, No more boxy business. I can get anything I want.